stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Alderman Monroe. Here. Alderman Becker.
Here.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Epstein.
Here.
Alderman Rucker.
Here.
Alderman Schuman. Here. Mayor Harmison.
Here. All right, tonight's special meeting, it's no unfinished business, no new business. So I'm gonna turn over to Sheila Wood.
Well, tonight, workshop number 2, we've got scheduled to go over general fund revenue expenditures, and Kerry Patterson probably is the only department that's not here, but he didn't use the 5% over under type no capital, so I told him he had a kid's game or something too. So other than that, the departments are here to answer questions. Next week, and I just sent you guys an email. Kevin has some backup information. He's sending on a couple of his capital assets that we will, next meeting, I guess next week, tomorrow night. I will also have you updated HR data that was promised at the first meeting and some of the engineering stuff, but I'll try to explain what we're working with Cochrane to do some better analytics. So we will follow up on the last meeting, which is tomorrow night, on those 2 items, if that's okay. So general fund starts on page 17 on the bottom center, or I believe it'd be 19 of your packet page numbers. I'll just go kind of over revenue, and if it's okay, we'll just go chronological order through the departments. Some of them we might skip over very quickly, unless you have questions. Page, just note, and we can refer back, those that when we get to capital, the entire capital sheet with the summary with the matching revenue might come in handy as we move through some of the departments that's got a lot of capital, parks or building or police. So we might refer back to that. And that was on page 11 of the budget, or page 13. So that might be something that you might want to refer to as we go through. So the general fund beginning cash and equivalent balance estimated for January 1 has increased a little bit. We spending less in some areas estimated through the end of the year, but we also had some increases. We got a little extra ARPA money, some other grants. So the restricted fund reserves remain met as per our policy. So beginning and ending, I did, if you noticed, at the end of 2023, the fund reserve did go up a little bit because each year we do a rolling 3-year average of O&Ms, so that's going to fluctuate a little bit there. So I just rounded to the nearest thousand. Sales tax, if you move on to the next page where it starts the revenue details, page 18, sales tax is 49% of all our sources of revenue. We briefly discussed kind of revenue trends. I am expecting to end the year of 2022 about 1.8% over last year. Now, how I got that figure is through October, which I know, given my recent few weeks, I'm not even going to see a report completed, and I will get to that, we'll catch up. But through October, we are 2.4% above last year. And for the last 5 years, we have averaged to be 83% of total collected by October. So if I use that same philosophy, that's where I'm getting about the 6 million that I think will end. 82 to 84% equates to about $6 million. So I do think we're going to end the year a little higher, not double digits like last year, but end a little higher, which is actually will equal out about 8% of what I budgeted. As you remember, I didn't budget quite as aggressively as we matched from the year before. I'm budgeting about, based on forecasts, about 5% over in 2023 to collect, and that's 6.3 million, and that does carry over to transportation and CIT. As far as franchise fees, which is kind of your next section of your revenue, you're going to see a little bit of change in individual line items, but overall next year I'm estimating about 6% increase, and that really has to do with natural gas and electricity and what's going on with kind of the activity there. And that truly could be tied to growth, more users here full time, those kind of things. Telephone still, but there's some strange things that's been going on with telephone. A lot more people are, anyway, telephone's not exactly it's pretty steady, if not going down slightly. Cable, very, very steady, nothing major on there. So really in that section, I do see some growth. I think we are going to be under or only 1%, less than 1% in the year based on budget. So it'll be very, very close to budget. We're just a tiny bit over. But next year I do see an increase, and I carried that over with my forecast of growth with sales tax. I do believe we are going to continue to see activity down here, whether it's part-time, full-time, and then plus things that as they come to fruition. The next section of revenue for general fund is licensing and permits. That's your liquor, contractor, business, dog, and building permits. I am expecting, I forecasted about a little less than, what we budgeted, and that has to do with activity in the building permits. But next year I did increase that, one based on pre-plans that we already have for a couple projects. So assuming they're on the timeline they say they're going to, we will see building permits come in through that. So 2023 is about 19% higher than I'm estimating in 22, but it has a direct tie to a couple big projects that we think that we pay in partial of their building permits in. The next section is grants. Grants are very volatile. Grants are truly directly dependent on capital purchases. So in 2022, we are going to end the year with over $500,000 in grants, but most of that's the ARPA. We've received the final of our ARPA. Unless there's new ARPA grants or apply for, we don't have that same repeat. It's a one-time thing. So next year, it's truly the crime prevention grants, which are specific equipment, bulletproof vests, overtime are the two big ones that different programs the police do. And then community and park donations. Eric's got a program that they do some park donations and advertising and things that the community sends in. Fees and services there's some big changes here, and I know we can discuss more when we get to the expense side that mirrors some of these. For 2022, my forecasts were a little off on a couple line items, which I don't have control over that, but they were. We are going to end the year for total fees about 33% of what we budgeted for 22, and most all of that is contributed to two things. One, municipal court fines. We are going to be about 60% of what we budgeted. I will tell you, this is the first year in 2 decades that this is the first year that revenues do not exceed the expense to run the municipal court. 2023, 2022.
Why?
Well, if there's no tickets, revenue coming in, then that's your municipal court fees are your revenues coming in from tickets and the court. Now, I know there's been changes over many years. You've seen kind of the decline. But it can be many factors. Volume, legislative restrictions, do many things. I think this needs to be a deeper dive conversation. We have some ideas internally that will be very board dependent. I think this definitely needs to be a deeper dive into what to do with the courts, what other cities have done, how they've been successful. With SB 5 many, many years ago, that changed a lot of restrictions, changed a lot of legislation, unfunded mandates. But then your volume, I don't have it in front of me. Todd would have to speak to what his volume of tickets come in. And again, you don't ever want to treat it as a revenue source because you don't ever want to say, oh, we need to write more tickets because we need more money. You don't want to get in that point, but I am just telling you this is the first year that revenue is now under expenses. And that has never happened since I've been doing
So when are we going to make the deeper dive?
Well, sooner or later. I know Carrie Bell.
That's the first half of the year or the first quarter of the year?
Well, you tell me, sooner than later. I'd rather have it in the first half of the year so you have time to
Your
have a
schedule
plan.
gets more challenging than yours.
Yeah. First half is always a little less busy to me than the second half. But I do think it's time to have that deep dive conversation. When SB 5 come in and a lot of city municipal courts were being turned over to the county, a lot of cities did that. A lot of cities waited. We now have a lot of data on what was successful and what wasn't successful. I think there's a lot of, because the legislation changes, that was the reasoning for that, but also, how do you manage that? So I do believe, it's not tonight because I do not have that file. Carrie Bell and Tara and I, over the last few years, have been researching different data points on that, which I think will be just as much as a political decision as an operational decision. But this year's budget, we budgeted $130,000 for municipal, and we've always been over 100. 2021 obviously was a little low. You've seen a big deep dive in 2020, but COVID changed a lot of hands person to person. But I don't expect us to break 70,000 this year. And like I said, that's the first year, and that's concerning to me. I knew we would probably hit that point. I didn't know it would, happen. So
I have a lot of thoughts on it, but I'd rather not share it tonight. But as long as you can let us know that within the first 6 months, we'll have opportunity to have a workshop on it.
yeah, and just talk about it, because like I said, it's not a revenue, it's not intended to be a revenue point, but you also have to, what's it costing you to manage a particular service?
So I guess the best way the question that I have is, so what's the deficit?
About 30,000 for this year.
For this year?
For missile court, so this year, no, this year it's not quite 20, but budgeted about 25. The other piece that was a little off, and again, this is not anything, is park concessions. We had extra trouble with, I know Eric, and when we move on the census, but Eric add on if you don't clarify it enough. But park concession is down this year compared to what we budgeted. But next year, we do think that will be tick marking back up. We had a lot of, games canceled. You have rainy seasons, you don't have tournaments, you have that canceled, so your concessions aren't open. Very rainy season in the beginning. So, and then employees and stuff. So that affected not only league play, but also affected the concessions being open. So.
Yeah, 13 games rained out in the spring, and then we weren't able to have adult ball slow pitch because of umpires.
But didn't we have corresponding expenditures go down then because we didn't have the supplies that we had to buy?
Yes.
It would, yeah, it would.
So, the revenue went down, but we didn't buy much stacks itself.
Right.
And food would definitely be a quicker return on that, or a quicker match. I can't find my word, because you order food as you need it. You don't really store a lot of food. So if you're not ordering, you're not selling, you're not ordering. So that might be a quicker match. I was just gonna look real quick. I know we're gonna get to the parks in the expenses, but I was just curious. So yeah, you do see some decrease. So those are really the two pieces as far as our fees and services that kind of contribute. If you notice.
One more thing on the revenue.
Yep.
Why is it the administrative fees right now?
Okay, let me find administrative fee components.
Yeah, why is
Okay,
that?
that is tied directly to CID and TIFs, so it's an in it. It's based on activity. You have
Pruitt Point.
Oh, there's Carrie.
Went away.
Carrie, I was looking for you a second ago.
Pruitt Point went away.
She wasn't gonna let you know she was down there. She just behind the way.
And if there's not activity, we're not getting as much as our 1% admin. Arrowhead, Hobby Lobby's a little later, different things like that. So that is tied to TIF. And actually, I will say the 1120 for 2023, I'm probably more precise, actually did more digging to forecast a little better. So 1120. The line right above that, police department services, that is our SRO. The school contributes 75% of an SRO. When we get to Todd's expenditures, I know he'll go on more, but they are requesting 2. So should the extra SRO be approved in HR, they're willing to take 75% of that. And I think I briefly discussed that. So that's why that amount kind of doubles, is truly based on whether an SRO gets hired in the school. And they have unofficially or very likely agreed that that's what they want to do, but no contract's been signed yet.
And that's why it's 142.
That's why it went up in 2023 for that extra SRO.
Plus their fee went up $13,000
Yeah, big.
from what it is this year.
Yeah, we not only, the SRO and the fire department, we have contracts that say we can, increase so much and reduce so much. And because of the changes in the cost of the workforce over the last 18 months, the school did see a considerable increase, almost a double digit, because of the way their contracts were written in. We expect it to, they still want the second one, so. Next page, which is other income, interest, administrative reimbursement, sale of property, rental of property. The only difference that you'll notice really, first that stands out is that administrative reimbursement. So that is directly tied to the use of general fund services from the other enterprise funds. We think of engineering, but HR, accounts payable, accounts receivable, utility billing clerk, IT services, anything that can be tied to a source, I do that. The big change this year, it went up because of actual expenses. So I know I repeat myself every year, but at the beginning of every year for the budget, I do a forecast based on a cost center, what each enterprise fund owes the general fund for services. And it's based on number of employees, number of computers, number of hours for engineering, blah, blah. It's a different cost center for different service. And this year, what I estimated for 2022 is more by the end of 22, because I have to estimate and then I have to put real data in. So the auditors like it, they are fine with estimating, but with the end of the year, we need to make sure that's more accurate. So you've seen a little difference, and mainly that has to do with engineer services. We added some construction inspection services when we found that position empty or vacant, so that contributes to that. Next year, you see it kind of go back down. We are trying to code certain things closer to water, sewer, and transportation instead of going through the administrative reimbursement. But that always runs, especially since we don't have in-house engineering work, it always runs between $650,000 to $750,000. And the transfer to CIT, transfer from CIT coming in general fund, ties back to your capital expenditure sheet, and that is a particular, the Phoenix Park parking lot reconstruction, which I know we'll get to talk about capital when we get into the departments. So overall, general fund revenue budget overall is 2% more than we expect to end this year. Any questions on revenue? I know that was a lot.
Why are sales of used equipment so far down? I understand we didn't sell a number of vehicles because we couldn't buy. I understand that. So with that being said, I would have assumed that some of that money is being carried over to this year. But when you add the 28 and 7, you end up with only $36,000 and $36,000, and we had budgeted $42,000 for 2022. I mean, what else do we? What else?
Kevin, I will have to. I can tell you what we're selling. Let me just look real fast. I would have to go back and see what the 42 specifically was, but it could be a couple things. The timing of certain vehicles, or we didn't get as much out of something that the department estimated. But I can find that out. I just don't have that on.
I can tell you at least one piece of it. There was some, we used to use these remote stations at all of our desks. Well, Michael's not here tonight, so I can't remember the right word, but we used to use these
The white boxes.
white boxes at all of our stations, and we had valued those a little higher than what we actually were able to sell to them via auction at one of our sales. So that's at least a piece of it, sir.
Okay,
The rest of it is probably vehicles, but
okay, that's fine. I know that's always a number you
Yeah.
throw it at the wall and see if it sticks.
So the next few pages are really just summaries of what all the expenses look like compared to previous years, and then by department. So it's really at your pleasure if we want to just start with the board and just go through them individually. Some, like I said, are pretty simple, might have very little questions, very little change, and then stop and discuss. So page 22 is the mayor and board's budget, which blame me, because between me and Tara, we do this one. The big increase is MML is in Kansas City next year, where MML is here this year. So there's your big difference in training, just because of location. And MML is really the main one you guys go to. I know I do budget a little bit if you want to go to legislative or receptions and dinners. You know, I do have a little cushion there, but the biggest jump there is assuming everybody's going to go to Kansas City. Other than that,
Gina,
uh-huh.
on the medical reimbursement, I'm looking at FICA. It was quite a difference as far as $250 versus $1,750, the medical reimbursement. Why is that?
Well, that's up to you guys turn in receipts to
I'm
do
sorry?
that. If you turn in receipts and use that, so if you're not doing that, get with me after, you know, offline, and we can take care of that. It's not automatically to you guys. You have to turn in to claim your $250. Yeah, so at this time of budget, that's what's been, and I certainly didn't put more in, but by the end of the year, let's talk if you're not turning in receipts to utilize that.
But that's not fiscal year, doesn't it work?
It works.
July
It
1st.
works
Right.
July 1st to
You're right.
July
Yeah.
1st, but it
Yeah.
depends. I was the only one that turned it in so far.
So yeah, there's no deadline December 31st, I'm just saying
I
with
put
this
it on my
budget.
calendar so I don't forget. That's the only reason why I did.
So if you guys have questions on that, let me know and we can, yeah, but that's what that line item is.
And then training and conferences,
That's the big one because MML is in Kansas City next year. And so I assume everybody goes and it does, you know, this year it was here, so we saved
Yeah.
travel and lodging.
thank you.
So the next one, we're at the clerk, or collector, sorry. This one is, I'll tell you, it's just the same. It's an average on how many commission license that he stamps to sign and TAR proceeds. Page 24, the administrator office. Mike seems to think he needs an office chair, so that is my one capital request. Other than that, training was a little off for us. There were just some things I didn't make it to, just for time capacity, which is good, it saved the city money. And then next year, I'm just not going to make it to those same things. I'll be more realistic about what I can go to, and so anyway, that's kind of the little difference on the, why we budgeted so much for training, but there were two big conferences that I did not go to, didn't make it to, and one of those was included in Mike. And I just not going to repeat those anyway.
And the health insurance, that was considerably,
Well, the health insurance overall had rate increases and depending on what plan you have. So I would have to go back to the details. I don't know, my department is me, Mike, and Jan. So, you know, if they've changed the plan or with the increase. I will definitely mark that and double check that number because tomorrow night I'm gonna bring you guys new kind of HR data based on some different levels, but I will check that.
thank you.
Any questions on that one? All right, well, we will move on and city clerk is next. And I'm just gonna let the departments answer questions or if I've done something to their department, I'll let them know.
Do you have any questions? The one big thing that I'm asking for this year, you'll see in my code codification, we haven't codified our code book since 2009. What a code codification is they go through and they make sure that there's no duplicates in any of the codes that repeat themselves, or they make sure that our code book is aligned with state statutes. If any House bills have passed, that either we're outside of what the House bill says, or make sure that the statutes match what we can or can't do inside of our code. So they gave us a quote of $15,000. And since, we've had all of our updates done, we're all current on all of our codes. But it costs quite a bit to codify the whole entire code book. Like I said, we haven't done it since 2009, so I thought this was a good time, since we're doing a lot of ordinance changes within this last year, and plan on doing a few more, that we get, updated on the codes. Make sure that the building codes are all up to date, and that there's no special statutes that, limit what we can and can't do, zoning requirements, business licenses, anything like that. But that's my biggest expenditure of all. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Is there a reason we haven't done it for that long? Would it be more cost effective to put it on a regular basis of every 5 years rather than waiting that long? I mean,
I would
you may
recommend
not have
doing
that answer now, but I think that's something we ought to look at. Number one, we want to keep it up to date, but if it's cost effective to do it as well.
Yeah, I would recommend doing it every 5 years. And I spoke with Susan from General Code, and she recommends doing it every 5 years. I did not realize until I met with General Code and at a couple of my conferences, we've been talking about it and getting it out and seeing the last time we've done it was 2009. But yeah, especially now that we're, having, you guys have tasked all the supervisors or managers to go in and look at all the ordinances and make sure we don't have any changes, which would be really important if the managers really hit the ordinances in the last, it depends. We can start codification maybe in April, which gives all department heads about 5 months to really dive into their ordinances and make any changes before the codification starts. And then we start probably about April. It'll take us several months for it to go and get it done. Yes.
So if we do this every 5 years, is that number going to be a lot less than 19.5 or 15,000, whatever you said?
It depends on how many changes they have to do, but I don't see it going below 15,000 every 5 years.
So
It's a lot of work.
Cost effective to do it any more often.
No. I would. There's no need to do it that often, just because if we keep up on our codes, since it hasn't been done so long, I'm not sure that since I've only been here 4 years, what the House bills and how statutes have passed to make sure that they are in line with what's going on. Now that we do a codification this year, then we can probably keep up and start fresh with a brand new code, make sure it's all codified. Then we can keep up, and then just do it every 5 years would be okay. I wouldn't see anything sooner than that.
Is that a 15,000 price they've given you? Is that a not to exceed that, or is that a firm number?
She told me it was a not to exceed 15,000.
So it could be, once they get into it, it could end up being,
No, 15,000 is what she gave me.
so it's gonna be 15 no matter if they
Yep.
find one mistake or a whole bunch.
Correct.
So we've been spending 3,500 to $4,000 a year. What have we been doing?
Well, that's for the maintenance of the online for Municode to maintain our code book online. And then all the ordinances that change, I send to them and they update the code book online. And then they give us our supplements. And then when everybody brings in their code books, then we supplement changes from there. And then I also have recently changed out the number of code books, since a lot of you have gone to paperless, which is great. I reduced it from 45 copies down to 10. So I have a few copies in-house, and if I need more, I can make copies of everything. We don't need that many copies, and I only have 3 in-house that are masters, and then whatever.
Aren't you required by statute to maintain 3?
Yeah, I have to have 3.
Sunshine.
Mhm. Yeah, in case somebody wants one, but, if anybody wants one, I can make copies, I guess. It's 500 some odd pages, but, we could do that. Any other questions? That was easy, thanks.
Carrie?
Yeah, my biggest change is in the training and conference. We're trying to get, with all the Encode, Tyler technology changes, we're trying to get 2 people to go to training this year. Out of state training.
Vegas.
Texas.
Texas.
And wait,
Well, can I increase mine real quick? There we go. It's Houston.
all right, next one is municipal court, page 30, and like I said, I know I kind of gave my spill, and with that, it is, budget one, it does include the judge, which really, there is one correction that actually Todd had shown me on 2022, maintenance and support services. It shows 0 to be spent this year, and that actually should be 1,900. Thank you, Todd, for page 30. Yeah, so maintenance and support on, we budgeted $1,800. Todd brought it
I
to
just
me
got
last
an invoice.
week, and so that's where it will be coded. And then next year, there's a slight increase, and that's for, they started Show Me Court, which I know Tara can explain probably more of that, and so that's some of that maintenance and support. That's, again, unfunded mandates that come out of SB 5, which when I say SB 5, I don't remember now what the bill number is final, but have around Ferguson.
Yeah.
SB 5 brought a lot of legislation changes, and that's one of those unfunded mandates with some software and court reporting. Other than that, Tara will have to answer.
When we delve into the court stuff, could we have some discussion about the, what MML is doing to these unfunded mandates that we should be screaming at our legislators about?
Yeah.
What they did is, with this new Show Me Courts, is they tried to make most of the municipalities go to county. Because it did cost money. They said it wouldn't cost, but it does cost money. You have to have a separate scanner and a separate printer, and your court clerk, you have to have separate bank accounts, and we'll get into it. It's but yeah, I'll get a bunch of stuff from different municipalities on how they handle it.
Like I said, Tara and Carabelle and I have already sort of started some of that research. I just thought I might have another year or so before I'm like, hey. Page 32, city attorney.
There's the
Actually,
I got no capital requests, I
Yeah.
got no extra requests. My only request is, call me first thing if you think there's a problem.
if there's no questions, page 34, we move into building inspection, and then we move right into building maintenance, and I'm going to, those next two are Ron's. And there are no employment changes on this line, I wanted to make sure I point those out.
The big difference is starting out with building inspection, you're gonna see that we had no expense in the code enforcement abatement. I just wanted to mention that, that means like with the one residence that we had to demolish a couple of years ago, that would come out of that budget line item. We didn't take any action on any properties this year. I did want to mention that just this morning I received the final $2,000 for the abatement of that property compared to 2 years ago. So thanks to Camden County and specifically Tom Gore's line following up with that and making sure that didn't slip through the cracks. The other items, let's see, the vehicle. We have a 2004 Ford Explorer. It's upper 90,000 miles, 96, 97,000 miles. And we're looking to sell that and purchase our final F-150. Unless there's other questions on any of these line items. That's building inspection. Yes, sir.
So the 15,000 for the code enforcement abatement, that's just is it just like a holding number? Are you expecting to abate something, or is it just in case something?
Just in case, yeah.
Okay.
Where that came from, Richard, is when the situation happened with that house.
Right.
And I was a big pusher on getting that.
Right.
And we didn't have any money. We said, the city said, well, we have the power to do it. Well, the problem was there was no budget money if they get to that situation.
You see anything coming?
No, I don't see anything coming unless we have another abatement issue like that. Something that we probably need to discuss, whether likely at a different date. because I'd like to speak with the city administrator first about it, is abatement that we've had to deal with, that you and I have discussed, those type of abatements, whether it be boarding up a house. We've never done the abatement process where we've written a contract to have a lawn care company on contract with the city should we have somebody fail to mow the grass or to take care of certain things. Other cities do that, and we can dip into that money to pay that, and the ordinances do give us the opportunity to do that and place a lien on the property.
Then on a separate subject, not, how would I say, I'm sorry, electronic permit applications, but electronic records.
Mhm.
Are we making any progress in getting rid of all the paper that we have around here?
Yes. Yeah, we haven't gotten rid of the paperwork, or the papers, but there will be a substantial amount gotten rid of this year. We are currently, we met the October deadline to receive files, and there is ample storage to start storing all of our data in, stored all electronically. One of our first items of business is to purge the old documents. We have the retention schedules from the state, telling us what we have to keep, how long we have to keep it, and we have already got staff going through the old files, working from, I won't even guess, I'm thinking it was 2006 that we've started at going through the files, making sure that, one, they've all been closed out properly, and if they haven't been, we're going through and closing them out.
Do we have to keep paper records for a certain period of time?
We have to keep records for a certain period of time. They can be electronic, but what we have right now is paper. So if I have to keep a copy of the examples on commercial projects, the building permit, the certificate of occupancy, and the plans, they'll have certain limits on that. Residential, I think it's 7 years to keep the plans, and then we can purge the actual blueprints, and then we only have to keep the actual permit application, the permit, and the certificate of occupancy. We don't have to keep inspections or anything like that. So that would drastically reduce the amount of paperwork that we have stored downstairs.
So all of that paperwork, what's the probability it'll be electronic by the end of this, of 2023?
That won't happen. There's a lot of paper.
Why not do
From the
electronic?
beginning of time, we've got to scan stuff. It's going to be labor intensive. Just scanning stuff.
So how far along are we, 10%, 20, 50%?
No, 3%.
Okay.
We're going through first and closing out the files and making sure that they're clean before we do any.
Sorry, what was your question again?
My question was, why take those years, that stuff from 2008? Why spend the labor to put it in there? Why not keep it in the box? And then
We don't need to keep
when
it.
it comes
Get
time,
that.
when it comes time that it can be purged out, just pitch it.
I'm not sure we're talking the same thing, but my point is that no reason to keep it past plans. I'm just gonna say that plans, I'm not convinced we should keep a lot of the plans electronically for a long period of time. I can tell you Grant Harbor's pool plans became helpful to me, okay? And that was done in 2005. And I doubt that we're required to keep them in longer than that.
That would be considered a commercial project. And when I say residential and commercial, sorry, the codes are different, whether you're talking about planning, record keeping. Anyway, residential, when I say residential, is 1 and 2 family dwellings.
But the main reason, honestly, paper's highly inefficient. And I'm just gonna tell you that as I get older and the workforce is much younger, they ain't gonna take 3 files on paper. And if they do, it'll take them forever, and they'll have to beat them with a baseball bat to get it done, okay? But put them on a computer, they'll go find it. That's my thought.
It's no discussion, but that's okay.
Okay. That's all I have, thanks.
Ron, I don't know if this is necessarily for you, but maybe Mike, as far as general vehicle purchases, how's that looking this year? Any better than last year or what?
All of the vehicles that we were budgeted to purchase this year but did not, and all of the vehicles that we have budgeted to purchase next year, we've already been in contact with the dealership that is on the state contract, and we have put our names on that list. So we are in line to get those vehicles. Now, obviously, Alderman Becker, we still have to go back to the board and get approval to actually purchase those vehicles, but we are already predetermined in line for those vehicles. And if everything works the way I think it will, then sometime late next year, there's no way it's gonna happen early next year, but sometime late next year, we should get all the vehicles that we get permission to purchase.
We did the same process last year in mid-December, when we contacted the state contractor. He said, you don't have to give me a commitment, just tell us that you want the vehicle, and we'll go ahead and order it. Because even if you guys back out, obviously we're gonna sell it, because everybody wants them, so we did the same thing this year. We did just receive our other F-150 yesterday that we ordered last year, so it took about a month.
We did the same thing.
I had some cities telling me at one of my conferences to, if you, like, for example, the police need 4 new vehicles, put your name on 9, because chances are you may get a third of them. I was like, well, I don't know, that makes me a little nervous, but that was what they were doing in 2021 and 2022. I'm like, okay, well, that makes me a little nervous. I mean, you weren't committing, but you were like, ask for double, and, because you know they're going to cancel.
Jean, is it appropriate to ask now about the building maintenance bill?
Yeah, do you want to move on to
I'm
36?
looking at the city hall parking lot cost, $150,000.
Okay, so we're ready, yeah, we can move on to building maintenance, the next page 36, which does have our first list of capital, as Phyllis said, so yeah, we're ready for that, that's,
All right, so yeah, there's several items on here. The city hall parking lot rehab is the same thing that I brought to you guys, or brought to the board for 4 or 5 years. I'm just keeping that on your radar. If you want to do it, great. If not, obviously that's your call. My opinion is that it needs replaced, if for nothing else than to make the grounds look better.
Well, excuse me, I know for a couple of years that I recall, it was like 85,000.
Yeah.
And it's jumped up that much to 150?
Yes.
Look at all your street and transportation bids we've had, double and triple because of material. What material is doing?
It's been 150 for the last 2 or 3 years, though.
Yeah, pushing it. It was 120-ish, I think, a couple of years ago. But yeah, it's been steadily climbing. And yeah, I'm sure you have.
I don't think it could have ever gotten done for 85,000 previous. I don't think you're gonna get that for 150, but the next one. Okay, 150.
All right.
What's the Veterans Memorial?
Like,
Is that what
well,
we discussed?
we're gonna let Mike, that's been, we've discussed it at the board level of redoing out front in
Right.
partnership with the Elks Lodge.
Right?
So that if you remember during our strategic planning meeting over the summer, we talked about this. The board seemed receptive to it, so I moved forward. I worked with the Elks Lodge, which many of them are here tonight. This is the replacement of what you see currently in the roundabout out front with a brand-new Veterans Memorial. I have worked with these 3 gentlemen over here on this project for much of the back half of this year. It would include, there's actually, I didn't bring the illustration. Do you have that?
Yes.
Can you just pass that around maybe? But we've got some preliminary numbers from Cochran Engineering on this. We also are partnering with the Elks Lodge on this. They will be providing some of the, they'll be providing 2 military statues that would be put on the pedestal that you're going to see in the illustration that you're going to see here in a minute. They'll also be providing us with all of the flagpoles and replacing the flags, anytime, in perpetuity, anytime we need to replace the flags, they stepped forward and said they will replace the flags permanently. They're also going to be providing a couple of benches that will be added to that. And so that's basically the gist of it. Now they're going to be providing us the bricks. They've created a brick buy program that they'll be managing and providing us with the bricks. We've worked out all the maintenance. I think we've kind of covered all our bases on this. The only thing that's left really is Ron and I are still trying to decide where we're going to move the utility drop-off box too, because it's kind of right out there in the middle, but we think we have a plan for that as well. But this would basically put a very nice memorial right out in front of City Hall. It would be very visible when the Veterans Parade goes by, and we feel like it would be a huge, nice improvement to our area and a nice little thank you to our veterans.
So the 142,548, is that total project cost, including what the Elks Lodge is providing? Or is this just our?
That's our construction cost. There are some additional engineering costs with that as well. But that would be our estimated construction cost.
So is it true, so is it fair to say that the total project's probably a $500,000 project? $300,000 project?
No. I think engineering on this came in, the estimate I got was around $12,000, so you're looking at about $154,000 altogether.
Are you talking about with their piece, the
Yeah,
Elks
I'm
piece?
talking about,
Okay.
I'm
He's
talking about the total
whole thing.
asset
Our
that's gonna be
piece and
sitting
their
out
piece.
there, not what we're spending. I wanted to, I guess what I want to be able to say is, there's a $500,000 worth of stuff out there that we paid $142,000 for, or whatever that number is. That's what I'm looking.
Fred, what'd you guys pay for those statues?
How much are the statues? Well, the statues cost $21,000. One of them is 6, and the other's 15. We've already purchased those, and we have them.
But then you're also purchasing the bricks. You're supplying all the bricks, the initial bricks, and
There's
then
not
replace?
the bricks there. There's,
But will you guys be supplying the bricks for the
you know, we're talking with the Midwest Brick out here, and they're gonna loan us bricks until we can replace them with these bricks. These are all laser cut.
And when they have a veteran's
And
name,
we're selling these. Veterans' names,
Yeah, your
veterans'
family.
service, and years.
okay, that's nice.
You've
So
already
those are
got
bricks
yours
that the
all
different
ready?
people would buy similar.
We ordered
to our memorials that are around the state like that.
So they're working with Midwest Block to come in and provide the blocks to finish out the memorial out there. And then as blocks are sold, they will bring a block like this, and we'll just one for one.
And who installs those bricks?
Ron, are you doing that? Didn't our maintenance?
We're going to be using a fine sand in,
You said
with
who?
That's nice,
building maintenance, city staff.
very nice.
They're also providing the flagpoles and flags.
And they're providing flagpoles and flags as well.
So the statues aren't shown here. It's about how big are these statues? 5 foot, 3 foot? Just
The military cross is approximately, it's about this tall, and the kneeling soldier is probably about this tall. They're bronze.
One statue weighs 125 pounds, and the kneeling soldier weighs 350.
So there'll be 2 soldiers and a statue in this area here that.
They're gonna be on the pedestal.
Yeah, you can kind of see the pedestal, but they couldn't render the statues. So we just didn't put the statues in there.
If you go to California, Missouri, they took over a whole city block and made a veterans memorial. They have the same statues.
So there's 2 statues, right?
Yeah.
With 1 soldier.
One soldier.
There's 2 statues. One statue is a kneeling soldier, the other one is a rifle with a helmet.
And for-
That's right. You said 2, that's why I was trying to make sure that I thought it was. Any questions?
So does that mean that you're going to maintain it completely? The memorial?
I'm gonna do whatever my management tells me to do.
Obviously, it'll be in partnership with the Elks because they're going to be providing us with the flags. They'll be assisting us with some of the benching and I'm sure there'll be a very watchful eye over us as we go through the years, but yes, the city will be maintained, it'll be right in front of our building, and we will be maintained.
So board, one thing I will tell you is, one, I'll have Mike do a side by side. This is what we're contributing, this is the value of what the Elks are contributing for now. The next step of this, no agreements have been signed yet, like they're working on this. This was kind of the first step to finalizing the cost. So the board will see an agreement that will outline all the maintenance that Mike is telling you. So if anything else you want to know, whatever, by the time you this is kind of a holding place, should you do for sure want to go forward, but there will be other board steps when it comes to, agreements and just in case that helps.
I have the draft agreement kind of ready to go, but I just didn't feel like it was really worth my time to bring it to the board until we went through the budget process and I got this approval. So once we go through that process, as Gina stated, that'll come before you. I can provide.
This is not approval for line items, it's just a holding place we use to agree.
All right.
I do have some questions regarding the bricks. The Elks Lodge will be selling the personalized bricks. Approximately how many, or up to how many are they anticipating to sell?
Well, we haven't heard yet from the
Didn't he say that
engineer.
the meeting, the engineer is gonna take about 1,000 bricks?
I think he said 5,000.
Oh, that was 40. All the way around. I thought did you check with him?
Yeah.
They'd probably like to sell every brick that's out there, but
Yeah.
We had identified at one time that 5,000 bricks could be put, individual bricks could be put inside of that circle. Whether that has changed because of the way it's rendered or not, I'm not sure.
5,000?
And those bricks will sell at what cost, personalized ones?
I carry
How much are you gonna be selling the personalized bricks for?
$100. Would you like to buy a couple?
I'm just
I
curious.
have a form. We've sold over 100 already.
So the elephant in the room, who keeps that $100?
It'll go towards
this
what
project.
is going in the maintenance. It goes, every bit of it goes to the memorial. What is going to be purchased.
towards the maintenance, not the construction. Towards the maintenance, but not the construction.
Well, some of it's gonna be for paying back for the statues. We've already paid for those are already paid for. But the flagpoles, flags, benches, things of that nature. We've got some people already gonna donate money for the benches. So it's all going towards memorial.
Fred, I apologize, I've not been in the agreement with any of that, and since it triggers a budget question. So you say the sale of bricks are intended to reimburse the Elks cost of the veteran, or does that also include the city side of the cost to do the Veterans Memorial?
Did you hear
Well,
where the money goes from the sale?
we split it.
Well, I was just thinking, I don't know if that's where Bob was going, but if it's like, if it reimburses 100% of the cost till everything's dollar for dollar paid off, does that also include the city side of the construction, or is that just the Elk side? We don't have to answer it tonight, we
Yeah, we haven't
can,
talked about
we can, yeah, okay.
And you obviously gotta sell enough bricks to get, a certain amount, but if you sell all the bricks and you end up with a big pot of money, can some of that come back to this? And I think that's the
Doesn't
question.
have
I
to
was
be solved
looking at.
tonight, but maybe that's something to
Right,
work
and
through.
the intent is not to pay for the entire memorial with the sale of bricks. The intent is to allow people to donate towards the memorial and have their names put there permanently. Tim Scott of Hedges Scott, he is donating a granite memorial to put on there to say Veterans Memorial for all that served and participated with the Elks Lodge and the city of Osage Beach will be inscribed in that memorial. And Tim's already donated that.
Gina, further discussion on it apparently, but you were correct in that what I was leading to.
Okay, I was not meaning to
5,000
step on your
bricks,
toes,
5,000
Bob.
bricks is $500,000, so therefore,
I don't know what the cost of brick.
Well, we will, if that's okay, they can work through, discuss, and that'll be something that,
That
Agreement.
Come to us
Yes.
before.
oh, absolutely, yeah. We did not remove forward to the board level the agreement until we didn't even know if it was gonna, yeah.
So I have two points. So where's the retaining wall? I just don't know the grounds that well. Where's the retaining wall that needs replaced?
The billboard sign, it used to be the Cars property, it's a retaining wall around that billboard sign.
What do we, I'm never sure which one that is, but someday I ought to come up here and ask
As
you to
you
go
as
point
you
it
exit the
out.
building, which is over on the far right-hand corner.
So what do we do with that billboard?
Well, right now, it's, Osage Beach Play Shop.
Okay, so we got something on it.
We do both sides this year.
Okay, cool.
Board would only let me do one side like 3 years ago, but we actually have both sides, and yeah, it's a rendering, play, shop.
Okay, and then the city hall emergency exit, is that out back or something?
That would be on the back side of the building, just outside the chief's window. It was originally designed to, if we wanted to in the future to do that, that would give emergency vehicles a dedicated access to the Osage Beach Parkway. The reason that we've talked about this for, well, since Fred was here, we just never brought it forward. We did have one instance this year. Fortunately, we didn't have an issue, but I went out, there was a delivery truck out back, it was a semi, and they had the back blocked. Immediately it was, well, what if we have a call? So we had to make sure that some police cars were moved so that the ambulance could get out. You know, we should probably take this to the board and let them make that decision, whether this year, next year, just so it's in front of you, that we would like to run our access, and it would be an exit only, and we would have signs up there that says emergency vehicle use only, so that nobody's trying to come in that.
And it's gonna be out to the,
By billboard, on this side of the billboard, yes.
okay, got it. Okay, that's all I have, thanks.
The other items, just real quick, the big items, the 2 HD cameras with mounts. We don't have real good visibility to the safe drop zone. We can see it, I say we, they can see it, but we need cameras that are high definition and that actually focus on that area. That's for the cameras. Boardroom tables for the pit. Flooring replacement, lower level, that is for the highway patrol. Their flooring is now wore down well beyond repair and likely, or not likely, into the concrete in some areas. So that can no longer be buffed out. And then the rest, what we talked about.
I'm sorry, I should have asked this earlier. Sidewalk replacement phase 3, I'm not sure what phase 1 and 2 were, but does this include the steps out front?
Phase 1 and 2 was the steps, and then a portion of the sidewalk and curb going out of the parking lot is disintegrated in areas. Unfortunately, that came in, I got an engineer's estimate in July, August, put it out to bid in September, and it came back about 250% of the estimated bid, so, or the estimated cost.
So is this carryover or?
No, so
So back up, phase 2 is in this year's budget, right?
phase 1 and 2 were in the 2022 budget,
Yeah.
it came in way over budget.
One of them may not even happen and likely might carry over, and then phase 3 is intended for next year. That, I just want to make
Yes,
sure.
and I've got a diagram that I provided to Gina, I probably should have provided to you all, but I can show you what phase 3 is. It's going through its Cochran recommendation based on the dilapidation of the concrete, or the, what they felt was the correct lineage of replacement. But I have pictures and a diagram that shows you what they're proposing.
So where is phase 2 in the budget? Because I'm not tracking that in 2023's budget.
No, it's in 2022's budget.
Right, I don't see it in 2023's is what I'm saying.
The project was, it didn't get bid out until after the first draft of the budget.
Usually there's a period that when it doesn't occur in 2022, that it normally
Okay, well,
goes,
so it's not in 2023.
because you're expecting to complete it before the end of the year.
They were.
That would work. Sorry, I wouldn't.
Oh, that just
So
came
what
up
Ron
since this
was-
budget's been printed?
Yes.
Oh, so we need to edit the budget, is what I think I'm hearing.
Right.
Okay, now I understand. Sorry.
I have two more problems too.
And Tina, what does the budget say, Ron, the city hall emergency exit? What are we doing for 150 grand?
That's what we were talking about just a little bit ago, putting a dedicated access to Osage Beach Parkway. It's another driveway coming off the far side of the building, going up to Osage Beach
So
Parkway
that, okay,
for
that's,
ambulance and police.
I got it. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions for Ron? So next page 38 or 40 in your packet, whichever corner you're looking at, I apologize, that's confusing. Parks and Recreation. The only thing, nope, I don't have anything to add, sorry, Eric.
That's good. Quite a bit here. Some of it is tied to the new park master plan, which we're hoping we will see in the very near future. Pickup trucks carry over. I think we're going to get likely rehanding down all as well. Irrigation pump is carryover. PA system for the city park, we felt is very much needed. Right now, we have no PA system. As you know, we have tournaments, we have major events out there. We have no way of alerting people for lost children besides yelling, walking around telling people, weather events, emergencies, anything like that. Camera system for the city park and Peanut Park. The chief was nice enough to work on bids for this. I think it's very much needed, as many people as we have concentrated in our ballpark area, and then Peanut Park doesn't close after dark. And I know there's a lot of things that go on there after dark. And Chief, you've been here longer than me, obviously.
Which is in damage to the park that we've had after hours incidents.
Yes.
And again, dispatch, they'll be able to observe what's going on at the park, or we can go back, get vehicle information or suspect information if we have a fight or something.
Is there no cameras at all right now at either?
At either one of the parks.
I
And
believe
it's safety to our staff, especially, down to concessions.
in the system will, the dispatch can look you remotely from here, correct?
Correct.
And then we'll have the option to look on smartphones also, correct? I believe that's an option, yes. So, safety and security, bathroom and HVAC at City Park.
I'm sorry, Eric, but I should have asked this a second ago. The cameras, is this just for the cameras, or will there be maintenance fees later? Or if you get these, will next year's budget need 10 grand to maintain them, or
We
serve it
have,
monthly?
we have an annual maintenance, but I believe that's in Michael's budget.
Yeah, there's an annual maintenance for cameras. We budgeted a small increase for it, but I don't think it's going to be very significant.
Same system as we have here?
Exact
Yes.
same system that we already have for all of our other cameras.
Sorry.
What's the probability we're gonna have vandalism to the cameras to the park?
They'll be on camera.
Pardon me?
They'll be on camera.
Well, they should be.
Yeah, right. I've seen all kinds of people on camera doing things that we can't figure out who they are anyway.
They're gonna be high up on some of the utility poles or in the buildings. I mean, there's always that possibility.
And are we gonna be able to have live feeds at the,
We should. That's what they're telling us.
huh?
That's what they're telling us.
Okay, for this cost,
Yes.
other than the maintenance. Okay.
And we've upgraded internet over the years, so that part should, we're hoping, right? From all the upgrades we've done in phases over the last few years to get good internet down there.
Right now, the police department's nice enough to close the city park at dark for us, and I'm hoping to put automatic gates in the future at both parks. But again, Phoenix is.
I mean, I like the deterrence, but the perfect example is the car sign out here on the expressway. Okay, they had cameras all over that thing. Those people just kept coming, okay? And bottom line is, they still couldn't figure out who they were, I don't think. And so cameras are wonderful, but they don't do a lot of things that people think they do, which is the best way I
Well, I can tell you, my little cheese store, we got cameras everywhere. I can check them on my phone, so
can. You can't check them, like, don't get me wrong.
always live.
Right.
It's
But
not really
how long can they record? How long can they record? How much can they save?
I have to look back at the data that I've heard.
At least 30 days?
Yeah, 30 days.
At least 30 days, okay.
Yeah, I believe the software is set up so that you can type in red truck, correct, and it will take you that, I think. So.
I'm not sure that these are that one.
Okay.
We're not gonna be on it.
Bathroom HVAC at City Park. Since 2015, our park staff have been operating out of our maintenance building down at the end of City Park with no bathroom facilities, no running water, no heat. We're just able to put in a pellet stove in the spring. This is very much needed. So I very much hope this gets approved. Because right now, to use a running bathroom, they have to go all the way up to the concession stand, which is a 40 mile away. Lake access, box culvert, City Park, you're all probably familiar with that. It's a carryover. Our last update, unless Mike, you have the information, February for that, or did you get an update?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
And I did get some promising information about it. They said it might be done in January, but with the weather being as it is, I don't know that it really matters whether it comes in January, February. It's probably not going to get installed until March anyway. But that's the other reason why we're waiting on the irrigation pump too. We couldn't do that project because nobody can get to the irrigation pump back there. So we had to carry that over as well. We'll likely be bidding that out before the end of the year, just so that we have a contractor ready to do that come spring.
Pickleball courts, parking lot at Phoenix, and parking lot at City Park. We put those on the budget because at the time, we had just kind of started working through the process of the master plan. Again, until we get the final master plan, I believe that they are going to recommend pickleball courts and absolutely recommend parking. But right now, that's a game up early on in the process.
Eric, sorry to interrupt, but I do have one thing on the capital list at the beginning of the budget, that they were properly marked 2022 carryover, and I missed it on page 40. So both the Phoenix and the city parking lot, although the dollars increased, they are carryover projects that were in this year.
Yes, I
So that's, I found another little mistake.
thought it was, but I didn't.
No, I did, I missed it on this page, I apologize.
But again, the master plan is going to give us more guidance, and we're hoping possibly this month, we have a meeting scheduled for Thursday. We can give you an update after that.
The only project that I did state, and again, just because we're on this page, the Phoenix Park parking lot, I did label that as, or tag that as CIT reimbursable. Last year, the board agreed for both the parking lots at an amount about $408,000 to be CIT reimbursable, although those are both carryover. Because of the way the budget balanced out, I just picked the lower of the two, but that's up to the board's discretion.
Just have one question. Who's going to man the PA system?
Park staff,
Park staff. Are they already there?
they're not.
So there'll be additional cost on top of the PA system.
When you say manning it, like,
So if I was going to have to be talking to it, or we're not going to be using it, so I'm trying to figure out who's talking to it.
okay.
Well, I'm sorry, I think are they already there? You meant the system, you meant a person, I believe.
Well, if we purchase a system that we haven't ever had before, then, and I'm assuming we plan on utilizing it, I was just trying to figure out, is it the parents or the, we can't find umpires. I don't know how easy it is to find park staff, but do we have a plan to make sure that we can utilize it, is what I'm asking.
We have staff working tournaments every weekend and every special event, so I won't be allowing just the general public access to it with a very expensive piece of equipment, so.
I have a question on the vehicles of 84,000. So are you buying some new vehicles? I didn't see that, understand that.
I believe that a request had been put in for 2 vehicles, and we're getting Ron's.
So we're getting an F-150 that we couldn't buy this year. That's a carryover from last year. And then we're replacing their plow truck with a new F-250 that is budgeted for 2023. What Eric is alluding to is we're going to have an extra vehicle, and they're really struggling with one of their vehicles. So over the winter, we're probably going to let them use one of our engineering vehicles that will eventually go to the electrician, which will be a discussion for tomorrow.
Do we have, or do you have like a mower? I mean, a tractor mower that you actually mow the fields or whatever?
So, yes,
Okay, so do we need to replace any of those, or are we okay?
I believe those were replaced just last year.
Last year?
Earlier this year, yeah.
Earlier
Okay,
this year.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very.
So you're good?
They're all mowers. The vehicles are 16, 17 years old. I mean, what they told me, the parks have always got hanging out, so we're happy to have them, but they're pretty old and broken.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions for Eric? Page 41, HR.
Go back up real quick.
Yep.
Pickleball. We discussed this last year's budget, and I believe at that time, we received a presentation regarding the parking lots and converting part of the parking lot to the pickleball court, because basically it's just striping, correct? Because I remember this conversation, right? Well, obviously there's more to that, but I remember at a big last year discussion before we do the parking lot, there was also another option to use some of that space for a pickleball court. And it was included in that.
Well, I can take this, Eric, if you want me to.
A bit of a disadvantage since I wasn't here last year, so Mike, please jump in.
Part of what's going to be presented to you in the park master plan is a little different from what we talked about last year. They are going to recommend that we do away with the sand volleyball court, and put pickleball in its place there. So while there is still the opportunity, there is going to be some green space that comes along with those parking lots. So we still have the option to kind of put it in a couple of different places, but they're going to recommend that we put it up where the volleyball courts are now, after we make some improvements to that wall, to the rock wall behind where the volleyball court is now. So that's kind of where that's going to go.
Is it possible we can try to find that presentation we received last year? On
Sure.
The parking lot that was going to convert part of the parking lot to pickleball. I'm just curious of cost effectiveness, using existing cleared space and parking lot, converting part of that to pickleball, as opposed to doing all new construction to volleyball.
Okay.
Just curious.
Yep.
Human resources, page 41, 2 main increases. And really some of this will be dependent, as you know, Sunday's retiring, which, reminder, Friday at 1 o'clock, we are doing a reception here at City Hall. I do hope to have an announcement in the next week about that filled position, but to be determined. We're so close. So hopefully that'll be soon. So some of the 2 line items that I noticed Cindy did increase: safety and wellness programs and employee programs and development. And that's in direct relationship to 2 things: risk management. We have a lot of employees, public works, a lot of safety programs, even at City Hall, and employee programs and development. We've stepped up a lot of things, engagement, and you'll hear more about the engagement and survey piece that we are launching hopefully the end of this week. So the increase in that, although it does seem, $6,000, $7,000, but that's all for all employees, and then the safety and wellness. Overall, the salaries you'll see go down, but that's just because you have a long-term employee leaving and a new employee coming in. So those are really the big changes, but again, as I get a new management person in here, some of that, we'll see how he or she makes it their own too and has ideas, so.
So Gina, I guess I'll ask you the question. So, first of all, do we expect 360 process and culture survey, I'll call it culture survey, citywide survey for employees, to be executed by the end of the year?
Yes, in fact, I know Cindy's last day is Friday, and she's on the cusp. Jan has done a wonderful job in supporting her. I believe they are within a couple business days of ready to launch in those first layer surveys.
Okay, and then 2 years ago, we did leadership training. I don't think we did any this year. Is there any plan for next year?
Yes.
Okay. So I have plans.
Page 13 is overhead, which is really your non-departmental fund that kind of catches everything that supports pretty much citywide if it can't be directly identified in the enterprise fund. After I'm done with a few comments, I'm gonna let Mike explain. Mike does a lot of my purchasing agent stuff, is which part of out of our office, and so between him and IT, they manage a lot of the phone system. Workers' comp, as you've seen, we did have a little higher this year, which I know Cindy kind of explained when we had the first, or Cindy's letter kind of explained as we had on the first night. We are having a slight increase on workers' comp for next year. Unemployment compensation, that's really on a touch and go basis. We don't often have unemployment. As you can see, 2020 was the peak, and that hadn't been that high in 20 years, but we all know what happened a couple years ago. So I don't even budget. We use that line as needed. So really, besides telephone service and office and equipment that ties to that, I will let Mike explain the philosophy and recommendation that may be coming for that.
Right, so you'll notice that you see a significant increase between what we spent on telephone service, or what we're going to spend this year versus what we're going to spend next year. If you remember, just to kind of take you back a little ways, in 2017, we had moved to a voice over IP system. We saw some savings there. They've kind of fallen off the history on this page, but we did see some savings there. But I continue to push our managed IT service and our vendors that we talk to about finding more and more savings. And one of the things that I have done a lot of research on is what's called premise-based voice over IP. And what this will do for us is it will bring our monthly and yearly phone bill to almost nothing. And so the $61,250 is an investment in a new phone system that would be on a premise-based phone system. And it would change our yearly phone bill from $43,500 to less than $5,000 a year. So it's an investment that will pay itself back. These phone systems typically last around 10 years. So we would start to see savings, within the first 2 to 3 years of investing the $61,250. And I should bring your attention down to capital, and you'll see that I also have an additional $27,000 in office equipment and machinery. That's the purchase of the phones. So you've got the phone system, on-premise voice over IP phone system that will be able to be supported by our managed IT service. And then you've got the purchase of the phones together. And what that does is that gets us away from paying $40K a year for our phone system and takes it down to $5,000 or less every year for a phone system, which in my opinion is a great investment and a way to save a lot of money in this line item if you take it out over the 10-year period.
So the 27,000 is for the actual equipment? What's the 61,250 for?
61,250 is licensing fees and all of the other service work that we need to install the equipment technically our contract doesn't end until April, so it also includes our regular monthly fees through the first quarter of the year as well.
How often do we pay the licensing fees?
I have went through with these people on this to make sure that I understand this properly. I am told that it is a one-time upfront fee, other than the $5,000 that I'm telling you about that we're going to pay yearly. is the reoccurring fees that we have to pay for support and licensing year after year.
Hey, Mike, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If I do my math real fast, and just been doing it over the last 30 seconds, over the next 10 years, we'll save $300,000.
That's what I was thinking too, and that's why I felt like this was a sound investment. I know Richard always preaches up to us to show that, you know, you can have that payback.
The only caveat, because this will be managed by our contracted IT service. So there is some operation on our side, whether we have a person sitting in a seat or our contracted IT. Mike has done, it's still in the bigger picture, long run. So we're taking it back in-house, which we did 10 years, we're taking that out. So somebody has to maintain the phones and do that, and that will have some operational value to it. So, but again, it may shorten the time.
And you're talking telephones citywide?
Yeah, all 5 locations. It's somewhere between 85 and 95 phones, which is why the equipment cost is so high when you think about that many phones and all of the equipment that has to come with it. But that is correct, sir.
Good job.
So, one question came up before. Any chance each one of you are going to have a separate number versus having to do an extension?
I don't know if I can answer that question right now.
We'll mark that on the list.
I'll add that to the list, sir.
Well, see, and that's where I was kind of going with that, because I know, and I'm new to all this, but I'm sitting here thinking, since I sat at that office, I use my cell phone.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, technology over 10 years, when are we all just gonna use our cell phones and do like we do at our homes?
Everybody has a city phone.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Let Mike say
That's
no.
that's definitely a fair point. Should we just abandon that kind of thing and just start giving everybody a phone?
Anyway, that's not now, but I'm just saying to think about.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I know what.
How are we gonna manage that?
You still have to have some kind of switchboard, I know that was really deep, and the front desk. to have-
Yeah.
Well, not all your citizens are gonna know exactly what number.
And if somebody calls a question, but it will.
Yeah.
Where do I call? There is some value to having 302-2000. You can get any operator and automatic if you don't know where you're going. But other people, like, they're gonna know the mayor's number or my number. There's certain numbers, but there's a value to having one number that goes to a switchboard.
Yeah, Richard, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that question. The one thing I can tell you is part of the reasons why we're getting the savings is because the research that we have done at any given time, there's only like 30 lines in use here, okay? Well, right now, with the way we have this set up, did you just say this? I'm sorry,
No, I said that kind of makes Michael's point, the mayor's point.
So what point is a lot of people use?
We don't use the that kind of thing, so it's cheap.
So,
By the way, I do.
yeah, I use mine.
Sorry. I use mine.
Not very
I use
much.
mine.
But anyway, there's some savings by reducing the number of actual individual extensions that come into the building, and that's part of where we save with this.
We could do it. It'd be nice, it would be a nice benefit. I mean, we're gonna have to have a switchboard system, for lack of a better term. If there's a way, if it comes with it, awesome. Mike has a number, and Gina has a number, and so forth. I've seen it before.
I've got it written down, sir.
It probably costs way too much, it's not worthwhile.
All right, page 45 starts with police, and we got police, and then 47 is the 911 center. So both of those are Todd and Mike. I will, before they start talking, there is the one change, I should say 2 changes in general fund when it comes to personnel, which we discussed at last week's meeting. We do have an increase of 2 bodies, 2 police officers, 1 SRO, and a separation between the secretary and the evidence custodian, or records clerk and evidence custodian.
Before we move on, I've got a request to take a 10-minute break, if that's okay with everybody.
Sorry, you're like elderly.
So, they're call back to order, please. Here we go.
Page 45, Police Department. As I was saying, the general fund, this is one of two changes to personnel numbers, adding an SRO and separating one full-time job back into two full-time jobs, evidence and records. And that's all I have to say about that. Todd and Mike O'Day are here to answer any questions.
As Gino mentioned earlier, School of the Osage has requested a second SRO, so that's why that one's added in. Again, they're agreeing to pay for 75% of employee benefits. So we'll look at filling that position if it's approved. The evidence custodian and records clerk, we're asking to separate that back. The evidence custodian, it's becoming more of a full-time job. The more evidence we're taking, the disposals, our evidence room is full. Mike can allude to more if you want to. That's just the short of that one. To separate those two, we tried it. To combine those two, and it just, if our records clerk or the evidence custodian, whichever portion she's trying to do, he or she, they're downstairs taking care of that. We don't have anybody at the window. We've got customer service there. And it backs up on communications, who's already short-staffed at this point. So we would like to separate those two. Go down to operating capital. Our desktop docking stations and the laptop computers, we're looking to replace all of our the majority of our desktop computers, the little boxes on all the desks in the officer's area, the sergeant's office, detective's office, lieutenant. Well, the lieutenants are already working on laptops. Those are all going to be replaced, hopefully on the ARPA grant that we received from Cayman County at 100%. Continue the replacement of 5 mobile ticket printers. This will be the second phase of that. And we have 3 vehicles. One is a carryover from last year. The F-150 police responder, the order was canceled on us from Ford. We're going to replace that with a vehicle that does cost a little less than the $38,500. It's a 2023 Ford Escape. And then replace 2 police interceptor utility vehicles. And then to kind of bounce back to operations and maintenance, we our training and conferences, we do want to increase that. That also does where the funds come from for academy recruits. So we increase that line item. And mobile devices and services. If we get this computer upgrade, we will we'll need to increase air cards for those additional computers that we already get. We'll need the air cards to do additional ones for the fleet. Any questions?
Yes. The SRO officer, is that going to be just be assigned to the 2 of them? They're going to be just assigned to the campus over there, or is that where they're going to be both at the high school, or just
They'll be the campus, all 3 buildings.
All 3 buildings. So is there just going to basically be sharing?
Or, one of them may take the high school exclusively, and the other one take the other 2, just however the school wants to work it out.
The other question I have for you is ammo. Are you getting it? I know that was a problem, and I guess I thought one year we didn't get it, but I see every year we have expenses for it.
We're still waiting on our 21 order from last year. A partial of it, our rifle and shotgun ammunition we received, the pistol ammunition hasn't. What we've been doing is we've had to go to outside sources to get it from our normal distributor, so we can get through with practice ammo. We've got our duty ammo and our practice shotgun and rifle, but we've had to, any pistol ammo, we've had to outsource. And we've already placed our 23 order.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we do have the remainder of the 21 order, the 22 order, and the 23 order, they're all outstanding right now. So I guess worst thing that could happen is they all come in before the end of this year. Then we pay it out of 22's budget.
Hey Chief, what conferences do you go to for recruitment? What conferences do you go to for recruitment?
It just varies. We try to hit the academies, and there's not really any conferences that you're recruiting at. But we try. We do have, when we can host trainings here, is a great recruitment opportunity. We can show everybody around and try to,
What do you call that?
just conferences or trainings that we have here, kind of try to poach, I guess, other agencies, officers, which is kind of, that's what everybody's doing, we're stealing from each other. Because there's not that many new officers that are coming into the job.
Chief, I know health insurance has gone up, but this is over $100,000. I don't understand that.
I want to refer that one to probably Gene. So those are numbers that we do get from Cindy, I believe. You're supplied to health insurance.
I will mark that one like I did on my budget to see about the people. I know when there's positions that aren't filled, that if she's budgeting, a lot of times we'll budget that they take the most expensive plan, but we don't know until we hire people whether they want the family plan or the single plan. So we kind of budget worst case scenario and sometimes. But that one is a big gap, but I will look that one up just like I added to
There's also
that.
2 additional people in there, right?
There are also, 2 additional people does add up, and then plus some of the vacancies too, so. But the 2 new people or 2 new spots, again, we don't know what layer or level of insurance they're gonna want, so.
Thank you.
So my perception is that we've been better staffed this year in the police department than we have for quite some time. So the question would be, why would overtime be up 50%?
I was expecting that answer, and I promised you guys this department and 911 and a few other ones, I was gonna get you that. Why did we budget? Why were we so off? And I'm gonna have to get that when I update the rest of the personnel.
Did we plan these salaries at 100% staff?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want me to get the percentage? I've got it, okay.
Just ask, easy question. That's all I have.
Any other for police? We moved to 911 center. Page 47. Todd or O'Day, I'll just.
Well, I'll go ahead and just go over, there is one under O&M, under maintenance and support. We're gonna be over this year by an excessive amount. What had happened was on our Omnigo or Entrado, the 911 system. We went several months last year and the beginning of this year without being billed. So there's some payment from last year that is actually in this year's budget. None of us actually caught that. They didn't send any bills until it's probably like 3 or 4 months ago. Was it even that? July. So, kind of complaint. Like I said, we have some 2021's payments into 2022. That's the only major difference there. For operating capital, we have a P25 upgrade that occurs every 2 years. So that will be in the 23 budget, that's the 7247. Then we'd like to replace we're requesting to replace the dispatch, the furniture, the councils, none of the radio equipment or anything, just the actual furniture that it's on. Some of it, we're having issues with it raises and screws are falling out. We have to keep putting it back in and such. And some DBA antennas and equipment and installation that is also on part of the ARPA grant. This is just an upgrade to the Moswin system that we have. We have a few dead spots here in the building, so this is antennas and equipment that hopefully should take care of those dead spots. We've actually got one antenna that's downstairs that's taking care of that issue that they're letting us borrow. We will be building for eventually. So that is questions.
$85,000 for furniture. Is it gold plated or?
That's three stations.
It's really very delightful.
My God.
That's the workstations that all
I'm sorry?
That's the workstations that all their computers sit on, their consoles. If you've ever been in 911, like the radio console, they have all these screens in front of them. So that furniture is to replace each workstation, and there's 3 of them.
They'll raise up and down so the operator can stand if they want to stand versus sitting on one.
Yeah, they're
versatile.
You buy them from one company or get
There's
bid?
multiple.
I'm sorry?
There's multiple companies. You can go for bid, or you can go on, and you have the,
Two seems astronomical.
No,
it's actually some of the,
3 different workstations and they're
How does that?
and they're ergonomically.
Consoles and all the central.
All the technology.
that's actually some of the cheapest.
Ergonomically.
Okay.
That would be the
Microsoft, good
councils,
God, I'm gonna move there.
so that would be the councils that.
I'm sorry?
That would be the councils that don't have fans on the bottom. I mean, these are basic councils.
Individual air conditioning.
Okay.
So are these basically desks, or are they screens and?
They're desks, and then like they'll raise up, and then there is
Equipment, there's not really any.
This is no computer, this is just the furniture.
Yeah, that's the time.
How long does that?
That's for all 3 of the workstations, not each individual one, that's for all 3.
Right,
3 or 4
$85,000.
workstations. 30 grand a piece.
We can build that.
How old are they?
2006,
So they last about 15.
because we did the radios the same time as this furniture.
I'm gonna come and see them.
You stop by, they'll give you a tour.
I think I should.
Gina, in my opinion, the overtime in this department works out correctly.
This is the one.
Because when you take the overtime and the salary that we paid and put that's 305,000. And when you look at what we budgeted, that's the way it should be. When you go back to the police, we budgeted about $1,480,000, and we're gonna spend, or excuse me, we budgeted about $1,380,000, but we're gonna spend $1,438,000. That's where I think the problem.
That is one of the departments, not to put Todd on, that we are gonna have to analyze, like, how we used our overtime versus how we plan to use the overtime. That, and I think there was one other department. That was the case.
That's the question. I don't expect the answer, but I mean, when I look at overtime being more than what we budgeted, salaries are generally less, and you add them up together, I mean, I know you gotta keep somebody there. That's understandable, but
Also,
that doesn't make sense.
On the police department overtime, there's about 10,000 that's grant that comes back to us on that grant revenue.
Yeah, but your overtime's still.
The contract labor that we get paid for,
on the revenue side.
I think that's in contractual.
Some of that, that may be,
Yeah.
that may be part of it.
Yeah.
If it is, fine, but if not,
Yeah, we will get that, because I think that was that in another department.
fine.
Kevin, I'll one up you. I did overtime salaries and holiday pay, and we will still, projected year-end versus all budget, we'll still be under almost $25,000 in that category. So.
On 911 or police?
911, yeah.
Yeah, so I did the same thing you know, with that.
Yeah, so that's where there's gotta be, it may, there's just a problem. You figure out what it is. A lot of possibilities.
We will.
The only thing I would say, if there's no more questions, just for clarification. So the 7,200, that is, the first time we paid it, it was like 14,000 something just last year. Well, this is split it out into 2 years rather than one, one big bill coming out of for 911.
No.
So you can split it
Talking about the
or,
The P25 upgrade.
yes,
Oh,
you could either split it or pay it all at once. But this is with it split. I think that'd be it.
any other questions for 911?
Staffing, how you doing with staffing?
We're 5 full-time and 6 vacancies for full-time. We still have 2 part-timers. So they give us minimal hours. It helps.
Any applicants?
No. Same with police. We've got one in the academy and 3 vacancies there. And the applicants that we're getting aren't, the last 2 we interviewed, not gonna move forward.
Are we gonna talk about that now, or do you wanna talk about that after you bring the information to us tomorrow?
It's up to you. I know I'm bringing more personnel as far as dollars and merits
I
and
have
stuff,
some
so.
analogy on what our problems are, but I would like to have that information you have to either support my opinion or make my opinion not.
Okay. But we'll just revisit any personnel follow-up.
I had some discussion on that subject. I've done some other research.
So next on page 49, planning, Carrie Patterson isn't here, but he is not really any big changes, nothing major, no changes in HR or personnel and O&M. He has a main conference he likes to go to, but if it's not relevant topics to the Midwest, he chooses not to go. So when I said there was gonna be managed leadership training, that might come out of employee development and HR, so, that doesn't mean he's not getting any training, just not for his particular. But I can probably offer any questions if there's any.
We talk about training and dating myself, but there used to be a lot of free leadership webinars available when I was in the workforce. Is there any of that stuff available that's of any quality?
Well, I can't answer, I'm sure the quality's like anything, it varies. Yes, there's lots of YouTube categories, TED Talks, there's a lot of different, little spurts, something, go through. If you want to go through a program that you take everybody together and do that, that's more where you're getting it structured and paid for. We actually, NeoGov, we went active this year with our Learn module, and it comes between that and NPR. There's a lot of training that comes with our membership and our membership with NeoGov. Yes, it may hit on leadership, but we use those more for your required sexual harassment, required safety stuff. So we utilize a lot of free training in that aspect. But on leadership, yes, you can have employees do it, but I think what works for us is do it as a group and bring it together, and that's more where your paid structure. But we do utilize a lot of electronic training, on the computer and anything free, and I know the police the same way. There's a lot they can get, for their credit. So we do a combination. Engineering is the next, page 51. As you see, I did not budget anything in 2023. The remainder of 2022 was the construction inspector, which I'm choosing not to load that with dollars again this year. Right now, we are using Cochrane. I will tell you that I foresee that not to be permanently not in-house. That needs to be part of that bigger conversation on how we best use contractual services or a combination or a hybrid. But right now it's being taken care of. I will have some of the information for engineering for you tomorrow night, but we are doing a deeper dive in the categories of hours we've used. And we've asked that with Cochrane. They're going to get it to us. It's just going to take a couple days. I can tell you what we spent and what percentage with what fund and what project. But really to analyze apples to apples, like, okay, we're paying for these equivalent hours and these layers of employees and expertise to get this dollar. And then if you want to say, okay, well, if we had these in staff, so to really compare that, I needed some of that hour detail, and I will be getting that from Cochrane. I'm just not going to have it by tomorrow night. So part of the continued bigger picture, we can discuss that with that. We do believe the professional service or engineer, we are going to end at 412. I will be 412,000 for the Cochrane. I'll have more on that tomorrow when I bring how much we've spent and where. And eventually we'll kind of tie up any final budget amendments for the year. But next year, we're requesting, based on Mike's organization of the projects, less, because we are budgeting a little more in the other funds. But again, I will put that in one big picture and have more of that for you there. Other than that, that's not really, there's not a vehicle anymore in there. There's really no memberships and nobody to do any training. So it's pretty much just our contracted services and a few supply items that Mike needs for maybe RFPs and stuff. So next is IT. I know Michael is not, page 52. Michael is not with us today. I'm sure Mike can handle some of the questions on that. Not any changes in as far as personnel goes. And then the couple of equipment items. So I will refer to Mike on anything you might have questions on.
So just a couple of quick comments. You will see that maintenance and support is going up quite a bit between 22 and 23. That is a number of different things. We've reached a point with the cellular devices that we have that it's just almost impossible for us to manage them all without some type of management software. So we are including a management software service in that line item. We also moved to the cloud with our Encode software. And even though it's not much of an increase, there is a little bit of an increase there. Additionally, we used to use a gentleman by the name of Dave Mathis to do a lot of our cabling work in-house. And unfortunately, Dave passed away earlier this year. And so when he passed away, we lost a lot of the knowledge that he had in supporting us. And so we have put some additional money into maintenance and support to have another company that we use called TCS come in and do some wiring work for us. But again, we don't have that roadmap that we had with Dave. And so we're anticipating that it may cost us a little bit more than what it would have if Dave was here, just as we get somebody more experienced with our system and all of the behind the walls and behind the scenes stuff that happened here at City Hall. Beyond that, there's 2 new servers that we are going to be asking to purchase. One of them is for the arbitrator in-car video software, and the other one is for the milestone security video. Both of these servers are end of life, and both of them need expansion because of the cameras that we've discussed that we're adding, and because we continue to add more and more of the video that we have for the officers. So those are the 2 big server purchases, and then we're also finishing our network switch project that we've been working on for 3 years now. This will complete our network switch program where we were switching out all of our older switches. And so this will complete that project, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
How long are we keeping the officers' video from the cars and from their body?
Body cams, it just varies on what both units. It varies on what the incident is, whether it's, just a written warning is 30 days, or I believe it's 30 days. But where a ticket's issued, it's a year. If it's an arrest, it can be 2 years to 6 years. It just varies on the situation.
Are these our standards or are these state standards, and how does that work with sunshine law?
The sunshine law, we have to keep it at least for 30 days, depending on what it is.
It's all 30 days?
Yeah. And then, but there's, depending on if it's criminal charges and what it is, there's some that we have to keep forever.
Is that state mandate, state federal, or?
Statute, yeah. State statute and best practice.
Court precedents.
So as time goes on, we may find that our capacity needs to be increased because as years go on, we go on.
Yeah. And with the body cams, it's on the cloud, so it's not ours. Well, it's ours, but it's not stored in house where the car cameras are.
Currently on cameras, we're right at 30 days. Currently on cameras, we're right at 30 days.
On the building cameras.
So if I try to pull anything outside of 30 days, I won't find it. And that meets the Secretary of State's. So servers are a big deal. Yeah.
It's prime real estate. Any more questions for Todd? Or Mike, I guess. Page 54, the next one is emergency management. Todd's our city emergency manager. But this
Not
is
really
where
any
his
changes there.
expenses are, so pretty simple there. Page 55 is economic development. Operation and maintenance wise, this is kind of, training deals with Mitch or well as myself, anybody that does economic development training, which normally is one of us. TIF proposal expenses. I just want to highlight some of these because might not know what they are. TIF proposal expenditures. This is both the in and out. So when a developer puts $20,000 on the funding agreement, this is the expense side and the revenue side's on the page we went on for revenue. So that is, they should match or be darn close unless we're not billing as fast as we're writing checks or that kind of thing. So that's what that line item is. They should always match. You can see an increase for 2022, but you're also going to see an increase on the revenue because we had a couple projects that had used up some funding agreement money. Advertising includes the TCLA cooperative advertisement program plus a couple other thousand just for kind of various odds and ends advertising pieces. Promotion events, I do list those out. We obviously have the Fall Festival. We always obviously have the Easter egg hunt. And then we've added money for other events. We knew it seemed like that was a direction at the strategic planning. I know Eric with the parks, I know this is budgeted in economic development, but adding more events, I know him and Mitch are working together. I know Eric's got a lot of great ideas, even though they're housed in the park. These have always kind of landed in economic development, so we've continued that. Other than that, nothing, the transfer to Pruitt's, there's none because Pruitt TIF's gone, transfer to Deerberg's. Again, that matches forecast of sales projections. And then holiday banner and lights, we would like to continue each year buying holiday light displays. We did get a number of holiday light displays and then obviously the banners that were under budget, so we're not spending as much, but we would like to continue the holiday light display replacement and expansion program. So any question I can try to answer or point you in that?
Gina, on that community beautification, it looks like back in 2019, and we haven't spent anything since then. What's going on?
Well, that was one specific new item the board back in 2019 voted on. Remember the landscaping shared costs with the Lake Area Chamber with the, or Lake Ozark with the sign when you come up to, by Menards, you come up the hill, it says Lake Ozark this way, or, no, I'm sorry, wrong one. The Lake Hollywood sign. The Hollywood sign needed some work and we agreed to assist, and that's where we plugged it. But whether there's a beautification project or something specific, that's where that would go if anything would come up. It's nothing continuous that we work on a program with.
So I have a question about economic development. Is there a regional or national convention that we plan on going to?
Yes, I just came this past week. I was at MEDC, which is Missouri's. So as far as
Missouri.
Correct. As far as the state of Missouri goes, I plan to be very active. Yes.
So I have outlined.
I'm looking at, I don't even know that there is one, but my impression, and I've worked with some folks in real estate and so forth, is there are some conventions out there where we can market Osage Beach to people that might not know about Osage Beach.
Yes.
Okay.
So right now, let me give you a brief summary. So how I budgeted that $6,000. It was important to me that Mitch immediately got to be a member of MEDC, which I am as well, Missouri Economic Development Council. IEDC was the International Economic Development Council. After the first, it's a little more expensive, we will get him signed up. Not only will that be training, because my goal for him is to become a certified economic developer, which does take a few years. So that and ICSC, which is your International Commercial something real estate. That is the conference. They have a national and they have regional ones. Now the regional ones sometimes can tend to have more advantage, but right now remember Nextsite, they represented Osage Beach at those regionals. So we will get to a point with recruitment that it will be worth going to those regional and or national. Right now we are getting some coverage with Nextsite. So those I mentioned, 3 different organizations, 2 of which are more national. I will get Mitch looped into with that.
So I'm not sure. The question I'm asking is, are we planning on going to any of those this year, or besides Missouri?
That is to be determined, but I put enough money in should we decide when those are. Because I'm not for sure when those are, the regional ones happen, I've not done that far planning.
Fair enough.
You plan the money, but not the event.
Right, I put enough in that gives it more
That's fair.
flexibility than we've done before.
That's fair.
I will say, the CBB goes to many, Chicago, Kansas City, selling elected feet, but I think we should too, yeah.
Well, and I know Mitch is just starting, I eventually see him accompanying, whether it's Nextsite or whatever. What we benefit and you experience, you learn as you go. But Nextsite, they already have those relationships and met the people and sat down, and I know that there's some exciting stuff they've been doing, and we are gonna eventually get an
I would hope he would
update
be sitting
sooner.
beside him.
Sorry?
I would hope he would be sitting beside him.
No, that's what I'm saying. I can see that. I can see that very much so.
Okay.
Very sooner than later.
Why don't we have a category for transfer TIF to the commons?
Well, it's funny, I had that marked, just like on the TIF Osage Commons right now, it's just the CID.
We haven't set up the fund.
Right, we
We
haven't,
have fund, we'll set up all these. Although I am gonna nuance something here, because basically Open Commons right now is one store. It'll probably get lumped in with the Dearborn, because you cannot have a single store's revenue.
You can figure out their sales.
So.
Yeah, because we don't want to.
we don't want to share secrets inevitably on
I
accident.
just made
Yeah.
myself a little note here, that it'll
But
be
yeah.
tips with an S around it. And
And then we'll get that figured out, because we also need to add
I just need to build faster, Carrie.
We're telling you that's our accounting system,
I mean, it's awful. I will just say one thing about that. I've never seen a development before, so I don't know what's coming. Where they build a building and there's not a 4D sign, a phone number anywhere on that property.
That is,
Nowhere.
they're just worried about Hobby Lobby, they haven't,
I guess
you're
they're
right.
full already.
Found that interesting.
I never observed that.
So page 57 is the tail end of general fund, is the transfer account. The new line that you notice is transfer to sewer fund, that's the $950,904. That is all the ARPA fund, and as we go through sewer, we can discuss which ones those are, but right now, the transfer to ambulance fund is a little less this year, even though we are doing some carryover, which we'll get to. The ambulance is carryover, but the money kind of still stayed. So the transfer is a little less this year, and that's just based on enough to balance out the fund. So that is general fund. Our last stop is ambulance, and that is page 78. Or 80 if you're going by the far corner right. And really, I'll just say ambulance, you do show at the beginning, estimated beginning cash equivalents is a little high, but that's because we have one major asset that's carried over and the cash staying in there. And then it goes back down to kind of where our normal balance would be. And I will, well, I guess I'd do revenue. I do all the forecasting for all the departments' revenues, obviously based on a lot of their metrics and data, but it is not best practice in accounting for the same people estimating expenses to estimate the revenue. So I do that. And as far as ambulance, I do forecast on ambulance fee based on, data that comes out of that department. Sale of used equipment is tied directly to what the departments say they're going to sell in their estimate. And then really the transfer from general fund is truly to balance out the count. So page 80 is expenses. John, tell me.
For operating capital, we're requesting 2 credit points. That's the hotspot in the computer that operates their laptop, as well as they can transfer their information from the cardiac monitors from the field to the hospital. As far as equipment that they're asking for next year, 2 suction units, 2 motorized stair chairs, and replace, those are all replacements, and 2 cardiac monitors, as well as we have the carryover from last year for the new ambulance. We did receive the chassis, so it is actually being built now, so we're still looking at the March 23 delivery. Had us a little worried there for a while because they couldn't get a hold of the chassis. Any questions?
Why would we need 2 motorized stair chairs?
1 for each ambulance. One for each ambulance. That way, there are occasions throughout the year that we do utilize both ambulances on different events and such, or if one breaks, I guess, so we wouldn't have to transfer them back and forth from each truck in an emergent situation if it broke down.
Do we have our own Medicare number?
Our own Medicare number?
Yeah, for question.
Carrie, I guess that's good.
Yes.
Yes. I would think we would.
Do we bill Medicare direct?
Our billing company bills Medicare for us.
What's our collection rate from our overall fees or our overall collection? Not what we're budgeting, but what percentage are we collecting?
The total revenue versus what we actually, or the gross bill.
What are we losing? That's the easier way to say it.
What are we billing and what's Medicare paying?
And what's the track record of our billing people? What's the percentage?
Not good.
I know. And I know there's other places that are doing better. That's why I'm wondering what we're doing to see what we can do to improve it.
Well, I can share one thing. I went to a new collection company, first part of the year, and they're doing worse than the last collection company.
No.
So I'm about ready to go back to the previous.
There were some new federal mandates that happened this past January regarding medical collections. A lot of it basically, I would say, it's tightening up your options, but more or less overall is what they're doing. Making it less aggressive, limiting the amount of times you can contact it. But looking at that, this past year, a whole lot of stuff went into medical collections.
Well, the other thing is I know the doctor's office do it, but we rely totally on insurance. So in my opinion, it's not uncommon to see a doctor bill $500, knowing they're only gonna get 100, but that's the game they play. With us, we're dealing with insurance. I think a large percentage of our money comes from insurance. Very little comes from somebody who dips into their own private wallet and says, yeah, I'll pay that $500 bill. So with that being said, why are we billing? I shouldn't say why. I believe we're probably billing $1,000 for a call when we know realistically the only money we're going to get is $400 because that's what the insurance companies say it's worth, or $300 or whatever, whatever those numbers are. And that's what I would. And the other thing, while I'm rattling off on that subject, is again, this is something that I know you used to be able to, but is there any participation from the hospital? When I ran an ambulance service, I had opportunity, I didn't take advantage of it, but to be able to turn my information over to the hospital, and they included in their bill what the ambulance portion of that was. So when they sent that bill out for, $500,000 to the insurance company, one of those line items, along with bedpans, et cetera, was the ambulance service. And that was a popular thing and was getting some ability to collect a lot better money. I don't know if that's available. I just know that there's some things out there that I hear, I have done a lot of deep diving, that there's ways to improve our collection. And I just see what we can do.
You mentioned certain entities. I would be happy to reach out and compare notes with.
Unfortunately, Shamsinger is not there anymore, but Lake Ozark was, according to the information I had got from him, was very, and they were very good in increasing the amount. The other thing is my understanding that Miller County ambulances percentage was higher. Now, when I say that percentage is higher, we can't just ask them who's got a better percentage rate does, because if they are billing truly what Medicare is paying, then their percentage is going to be higher. So that, unfortunately, maybe some of the information I've gotten when people are touting their percentages doesn't mean they're having any better luck. All I'm trying to say there. So if we're charging more, but maybe that's where we need to charge less to be more realistic. Not that our services aren't worth it.
Right, no, I get what you're saying. I will say that last year, when I looked around at the different ambulance services compared to what we're billing, they're billing, we were the highest in the year.
Yeah, so their percentage may look better, but that's because they're billing at a lower amount. But if Medicare's only going to pay X number of dollars, no matter if you have a full CPR code that you're dealing in the back, or
Medicare pays like $400 when we bill about $1,200. That's the difference. Just offhand.
But when we raised ours, that was at the recommendation of the billing company too.
We didn't raise our prices.
The last time we did.
Oh, that was before me.
Yeah, we raised them a couple years back, but again, I was concerned at that point of, why are we raising them? You know, we raised them from X number to double X, and if Medicare's only paying half X.
This last year Medicare did raise the percentage they're reimbursing, is that correct, Carrie?
Yeah, Todd, they all got another.
They're talking about it, possible, I think it was like almost 8%, but then there was some other drawback or other ruling that was going into effect that would drop it back down to where we would only see a 4% increase. A max.
The only advantage we have with higher prices is those people that we do bill with the insurance that pays for. That's, I mean, the car, you know.
Well, I think like any process, I know it's not a business, but you should have a marketable cost for your product, and right now that's a service. Yes, then you know Medicare's only paying a percentage, or insurance pay this. But I don't think you should devalue what the cost of your service is. For a market, you know, yes, you're inflating your write-offs knowing that this portion of payers are only gonna pay X. You know, I just have to wrap my brain about billing less just because you know we're gonna pay less. You're always gonna have that Medicare piece. But you're right, insurance or self-pays or probably, you know, I don't know what the percentage, but I still think you should first, what is the marketable value of that service you're providing? And then, you know, from there, so you're right. I think we're staying very market competitive where others might be like, oh, we're not gonna get it anyway or something.
Or they kept their costs down.
Or they cut their costs down. And a lot of times on the ambulance, it's kind of both, well, anytime it's like, what does it cost us to provide the service for that call? Well, ambulance has a nuance. General fund subsidizes the difference. So really the comparison to marketable, the cost of services, what are the other areas supporting it in a one trip here or whatever those are. And so that's kind of how we match that, not really starting what does it cost us to do the service, because general fund subsidize ambulance up to 60% sometimes, so you'd never be able to.
Incentive to control costs, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean,
That could be a problem.
it'll be a, yeah. Anyway, that's fine. So any other ambulance questions? I made a list of questions to be answered, and so we will have more. We'll see you tomorrow night, same place, same time.
Any other comments, questions? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Great evening.